Guys, what's up? It's 2019. It's hard to get excited about any game these days because we've been disappointed so many times, whether it's Anthem, which was in the development cycle for 6 years, believe it or not, or whether it's, Bethesda's Fallout 76 that I was quite hyped about. There are so many games that are coming out, or even all the Star Wars games coming from EA. It's just a mess. So it's hard to get excited, it's hard to get hyped for any game, but one game that I haven't given up on is Starfield. It was teased last year at E3, and we don't know that much about, but actually I've read up on it, and there are quite a few things that we do know. There are quite a few leaks and rumors and people speculating, so I'm going to make a video about that, break all that down to you guys. I'm sure there's a bit of stuff that you haven't heard about before. So obviously, just kind of the top line disclaimer, Starfield is a new space game by the makers of Fallout, by the makers of the Elder Scrolls games. It will happen in an open world, and it will be a single-player space RPG. That's how it's been described. It's Bethesda's first real new IP in 25 years. So that tells me they want to get that one right? They're going to work hard on this to get it right, because if you introduce a new IP, you want to make sure that people like it and that you get people on board. So I think they're going to put a lot of effort and time in it to get it right. Not like the Fallout 76 launch. According to one leak that I read, and keep in mind whenever I say the word leak, take it with a grain of salt, because it is just a leak, but that leak described that the game will actually be set in our real universe. So you might start in our solar system, you might start on Earth, and then warp jump to another galaxy and experience that, which would match really well with the teaser trailer they showed, because in the end of that you kind of have like a warp jump motion going on. So that would kind of be a little hint of you starting in our solar system and then jumping to another galaxy. Alien races will feature in the game. That has been confirmed. Specifically, a leak claimed that there will be 4 different planets that the players can visit, and the largest one will be around 1.4 times the size of the Skyrim map. The rest is promised to be slightly smaller, around 0.8 times the Skyrim map. But, I mean, also take that with a grain of salt, because it's nice to have a gigantic map, but if there's nothing to explore in that map and you just have, a massive map with a big city in the middle, and all you can do in the map really is visit that city, then it's nice that you have a gigantic map, but it doesn't really do much for you. So only saying, oh, it's a huge map, is not really a promise of a lot of content, right? Another thing that's been mentioned is that one city on one of the planets is bigger than any city ever made by Bethesda for any game. It's been said that it's double the size of the Imperial City from Oblivion, so that's fairly huge. The same leak also claimed that there will be 3 different main factions and other organizations that are not necessarily part of the main storyline. So if you have 3 factions, it reminds me a little bit of Skyrim, right? Where you have different factions and you can join them, and then you can leave them behind and join another faction and fight your previous friends and all that. So that leaves a lot of options for good storytelling. Another leak claimed that Starfield will include both ground and flying vehicles, and that there will be some kind of online tournament style mode featuring the game's spacecraft. So that reminds me a bit of that stuff that we've seen with Star Citizen, where you can basically fly spacecrafts through rings and basically do races in the air. However, the leak also stated that that feature might not be included in the final product. So it sounds to me like someone was working at Bethesda and leaked that to someone else and just saying, look, I'm working on this tournament mode, but we don't really know whether it's going to make it into the game. But one thing that's really, really crucial for me when talking about spacecraft in Starfield is that we need, and I can't underline that enough, a mechanic that we can actually fly spacecraft. Don't give me that stuff that we've seen in Mass Effect. Don't get me wrong, I love the Mass Effect games, but you just see a map and you click a planet and then you get a loading screen and then you land on that planet. I mean, in Mass Effect you still had the mechanic that you see the little miniature Normandy flying around, but it just sucked, right? It was an element that was missing, and with Mass Effect 3, to be honest, when that was announced, I was like, come on man, this time please put spacecraft flying mechanics into the game. I want to fly through space. I want to seamlessly land on those planets. I don't want that stuff that that they're doing with Destiny 2, where you just see planets and you click them and you get a loading screen. It's not the same. It is not the same. I want the mechanic that we've seen in games like No Man's Sky. You're on a planet, you get into your ship, you seamlessly fly into space, and you can fudge a loading screen in there where you just see white or whatever, and then boom, you're in space and it's actually a loading screen, but it's a seamless experience. So I think Starfield needs that, right? We need a spacecraft flying mechanic and not just planets that we can click and then with the loading screen we're suddenly there, teleported there, and we can explore them. That's not what I want. I want player-controlled spaceships. The game will be released on Xbox One, PS4 and PC. However, that's not finally confirmed because it might come out for the PS5 and the next generation Xbox as well. When you currently type in Starfield into Google, you get a little product page, and on that it does say PS4 and Xbox One, but it doesn't state any release date. So it could be that they are moving it into the next generation and then potentially try to sell you systems with the game, and there's a PS5 Starfield bundle or something along those lines. My personal feeling is that they're going to do what Rockstar did with GTA 5. They're going to push it out on the very late cycle of this generation, right, of the PS4 and the Xbox One. You can buy it for that, and then the next generation launches and you can buy it again, and it's the enhanced edition or whatever, and then you can basically buy the game twice if you like it. Play it on the next generation as well, because that's what Rockstar did, and it led to incredible sales figures for GTA 5. So I'd imagine that possibly Bethesda's gonna try to go down the same route. In an interview with VentureBeat, Bethesda recently confirmed that Starfield has been in development for 10 years and that just now they're dedicating a full development team to finish it. And again, these are numbers I'm taking with like a massive tablespoonful of salt, because developers throw these numbers out. They're like, we've been working on it for 15 years. But the truth is, 2 people in the corner very conceptually have been working on it. And if they say they've now only dedicated a full team to it, that means they haven't been working on it for that long. Maybe on the lore, maybe on the art. They've been working for 10 years. That's possible. But on the actual game, I doubt that they worked on it that long. However, I think they should, right? And they should definitely put the time into it that the game needs, because the biggest red flag for me when it comes to Starfield is that it will be based on the same old creation engine that Fallout 4 was based on, that Fallout 76 was based on, that the Elder Scroll games were based on, and that's not a good thing, right? Because that engine underperformed already with Fallout 3. It was struggling and performing poorly on older consoles or older computers. It's just not a very good engine. It really made Bethesda famous for producing buggy and glitchy games. And we've seen it with Fallout 76, like the backlash, because before that, you remember Todd Howard was like, oh, we've implemented a new lighting system and we've made it look really, really good. This engine now looks great. Well, it didn't. Okay, it didn't look particularly good because there are limitations. There are limitations when it comes to engine development. Yes, you can put a new render engine or a new lighting engine into it, but in the bigger picture, there's just so much you can do with an engine, and you will always pay a price for over modifying an engine. And another example for that actually is Call of Duty. That's still based on the old heavily modified Quake engine because they want to keep the gameplay. They're worried that they move over to another engine and it doesn't feel the same, and everyone's like, oh, Call of Duty's dead, it doesn't feel the same now. So they stick with that engine, they modify it like crazy, and as a result, Black Ops 4 had, for example, an 80 gigabyte install for a game that doesn't even look that good. So whenever you over-modify a game engine, you will pay a price. Maybe long loading times, maybe an unreasonable install size, maybe bad performance on older systems. Bethesda's decision to still go with their old engine is really, really, really worrying me. And I think that could really be the fact that breaks the camel's back, so to say, because, the game probably will look slightly outdated. That's my speculation, obviously. And especially when looking at other space games that they are competing with, like Star Citizen, or even you see in the background here, Everspace. Those are gorgeous games. They look absolutely stunning. So when you do come out with a game that does have all these mechanics, which I assume it will have, you know, like you can pick up every item, because that's stuff we've seen in Fallout and Elder Scrolls, and that's just stuff that's embedded into the engine, or like the dialogue system, which is quite good. So they want to maintain all these features, but at the same time, they're going to pay a price visually, I assume. So I think when Starfield will be first revealed, it won't look as stunning as maybe a Star Citizen or maybe an Everspace or comparable AAA games. So the visuals will be slightly underwhelming. That doesn't mean it's going to be a bad game, right? Keep in mind, you can have games that are visually not up to the latest standards, but the mechanics are great, the story is great, the whole game is fantastic. So I'm not saying that means it's going to be a bad game, but I fully expect the game to look slightly outdated. When Todd Howard was asked a while back why they are still using their old engine, he stated the following, and I'm quoting, "We like our editor. It allows us to create worlds really fast and the modders know it really well. There are some elementary ways we create our games and that will continue because that lets us be efficient and we think it works best." Now, that quote from Todd Howard, in my opinion, is a big problem. Because that's how someone speaks who's very comfortable with where they are. It sounds like he's very comfortable with where the engine is at and with their method of producing games. And of course, all the key features that we love from Bethesda games are already embedded into that engine. Like I said before, you know, picking up all the items, assigning stats to nearly any item that you can find, the dialogue system and all that. And of course, it makes game production more convenient if you have an engine that already has all these assets, because you don't need to rewrite all those key features into a new engine, which would literally be a start from scratch. And that would take years and years of development. But I say exactly that is necessary. Exactly that's necessary. You need to look at the problems and issues that you had with the engine in Fallout 76, and you have to accept the truth that this engine has seen its best days. It was useful, it produced great games, classic like Skyrim and Fallout 3 and so on. But the truth is, this is the end of the line for that engine. You can try to modify it even more and promise us, you know, greatly overhauled lighting engines and everything. The engine will not look as good as other contemporary engines. And that is a problem. It's a little bit like an old retail shop that refuses to make the switch to online trade, and then they are wondering why they're going bankrupt. Bethesda really needs to step up their engine game. And if you look at games like Cyberpunk 2077, obviously I haven't played it, but what we know from CD Projekt Red, I mean, they produce magnificent, incredible games, and the gameplay footage we've seen looked absolutely stunning. So these kind of games, as well as Star Citizen and so on, they raise the bar. They keep raising the bar for that kind of sci-fi RPG type game. And if then Bethesda comes out with a game that looks outdated and it's basically a redressed Fallout in space, and again, I don't know if it's that, I'm just making assumptions, but if they come out with that, I think people are going to be underwhelmed, and I think it's not going to really be able to compete. I really think Bethesda now has to realize they need a new engine. They need to invest the groundwork, the time into developing something new so that the next Elder Scrolls game, that games like Starfield can be based on a new engine and can actually also visually compete with comparable games. Guys, this kind of concludes my video. These are my thoughts, a lot of speculation, a lot of facts in there. I hope there was some stuff that you hadn't heard about. If you did, and if you enjoyed the video, please leave a like. I'd very much appreciate that. You can also subscribe to the channel. I'd be happy to see you back. Leave your thoughts on Starfield down in the comment section below. Are you hyped? What are your concerns? Why do you think it's going to be great? Why do you think it's not going to be so great? We haven't seen much, but based on what we know, what I broke down in this video, I think there's a lot to go on. Guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. Like I said, take care, and I'll see you next time. I'm out. Bye.